everybody. Hi. Hello. I'm trying to do a little bit testing. So I'm here a lot earlier than I normally would be. I had to wake up at 9 a.m. for this. I have not woken up before 12 in a very long time. But that means the vibes are cozy. I wish I had a blanket I could put on my desk. That would really make it. Hi, hero. Hi, hi, hi. Gonna do a spot of reading. I was gonna say, oh, I got a new outfit. It's not really a much of an outfit, is it? But it's cute. It's an oversized t shirt because we're cozy and we're in bed. And that kind of stuff is the absolute best thing to fall asleep in. So, I'm gonna continue with some more Sherlock Holmes because I like reading that. I like reading the British setting novel stuff because I feel like I can do I can unconsciously do the accent basically. I realized I was watching my own VODs back that I for some reason end up having a weird accent when I'm reading that's not there when I'm talking normally, like it's different. Beats me why that's happening. Right. There we go. The Five Orange Pips. It's another one of the short stories from the early days of Sherlock. When I glance over at my notes and records of Sherlock Holmes cases between the years 82 and 90, I am faced by so many which present strange and interesting features that it is no easy matter to know which to choose and which to leave. Some, however, have already gained publicity through the papers, and others have not offered a field for those peculiar qualities which my friends possessed in so high a degree, which is the object of these papers to illustrate. Some, too, have baffled his analytical skill, and would be, as narratives, beginnings without an ending, while others have been but partially cleared up, and have their explanations founded rather upon conjecture and surmise than on the absolute logical proof which was so dear to him. There is, however, one of those last which was so remarkable in its detail, and so startling in its result, that I am tempted to give some account of it, in spite of the fact that there are points in connection with it which have never been, and probably never will be, entirely cleared up. I so I have watched and read a lot of Sherlock Holmes, right? So I've watched um weirdly enough I've never actually watched the I think it's the BBC series, like the one with the Benedict, the Benedict guy. I was gonna say his full name, but um I have never said his last name correctly in years. Not because I don't know it, but because it became a bit of mispronouncing it. And so for the longest time, whenever we talk about this, and I realized I even did it in front of my dad a few times, and I was so embarrassed, but I've just been calling him Benedict Cumberdick. Just so silly. And I don't know when I even came up with it. But yeah, he's just been Benedict Cumberdick for the longest time. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, I haven't watched his version, like his series at all, which is I've seen a lot of clips and stuff of it, but I just never ended up watching it. Um, but I have watched stuff like Elementary and Doctor House and all of the like weird Sherlock spin-offs that are like Sherlock but different. I remember I used to be obsessed with Doctor House, and then I found out it was like a Sherlock adaptation type thing, and I was even more obsessed with it. um, but yeah, one of the things, my original point that started this all, because God, I got sidetracked, is that I never, through all of the Sherlock content that I've consumed, I never realized that canonically there are um, cases that he didn't solve. And I feel like that's just like the type of character that he's portrayed as is very good at everything. So having reading John say like, yeah, there was some stuff that he just didn't solve, or some stuff that was like not properly solved is still like whatever. I mean, there's only access to so much information you can get, even as smart as he is. But just having a lot of stuff that's completely unsolved, quite interesting. I can go on mystery tangents for a long. I haven't talked about Nancy Drew on stream yet. Y'all don't want me to launch into that. But if the interest is there, I really wanna try to play some of the old Nancy Drew games because um, one, I love them. Two, I don't remember them, but I know they're notoriously difficult to stream because of the way that they are, and I'd have to find where the fuck I put them. I know they're somewhere. I do have them on some device because I very distinctly remember discovering them during COVID when it was like COVID first happened and I was stuck at home back from uni. Um, what's it called? And I procrastinated on all of my assignments because I was obsessed with the games. They're also quite difficult. So having doing it on stream and having chats help I think would be quite helpful. If maybe our collective brains can actually do the smart people puzzles. Oh my gosh. Um. Okay. Du- 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 du. Bobbies. I'm dumb. I won't be of much help. It's okay. We all have our niches, right? You'll know something that I probably don't, and we can put it together that way. It's just- Like I said, the collective brain of all of us. There's no my brain or your brain. We will become one. Ah, thanks for the follow. Name Resu. Hi, welcome in. Between us, we got at least 2 IQ. Exactly. And the more friends we get, the more we bump up that number. And together, I'm sure we could do it. Let's see if I can find where I've put the games. I could try streaming it tonight or tomorrow night. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Alright, back to reading. The year 87 furnished us with a long series of greater or less interest, of cases of greater or less interest, of which I retain the records. Among my headings under this 112 months, I find an account of the adventure of the Paradol Chamber, of the Amateur Mendicant Society, who held a luxurious club in the lower vault of a furniture warehouse, of the facts connected with the loss of the British bark Sophie Anderson, of the singular adventures of the Grice Pattersons in the island of Ufa, and finally of the Camberwell poisoning case. In the latter, as may be remembered, Sherlock Holmes was able, by winding up the dead man's watch, to prove that it had been wound up 2 hours before, and that therefore the deceased had gone to bed within that time, a deduction which was of the greatest importance in clearing up the case. All these I may sketch out at some future date, but none of them present such singular features as the strange train of circumstances which I have now taken up my pen to describe. These Watson's really writing these as kind of writing a paper about Sherlock Holmes, isn't he? It's interesting. It was in the latter days of September, and the equinoctial gates had set in with exceptional violence. All day the wind had screamed and the rain had beaten against the windows, so that even here in the heart of great hand-made London we were forced to raise our minds for the instant from the routine of life, and to recognize the presence of those great elemental forces which shriek at mankind through the bars of his civilization, like untamed beasts in a cage. As the evening drew in, the storm grew higher and louder, and the wind cried and sobbed like a child in the chimney. Damn, Watson's getting all poetic and shit. Didn't realize he was like such a writer, you know? uh, Sherlock Holmes sat moodily at one side of the fireplace, cross indexing his records of crime, while I was at the other, deep in one of Clark Russell's fine sea stories, until the howl of the gale from without seemed to blend with the text, and the splash of rain to lengthen out the long swash of sea waves. My wife was on a visit to her mother's, and for a few days I was a dweller once more in my old quarters at Baker Street. Also, let me know if you can hear the background music. I hope it's not too quiet. That's a weird setting to level right, is what I've learned recently. Because I never know and I'm just kind of guessing. So I have to make sure that I'm not hearing it as well. It's very quiet. I'll turn it up a smidge. Wait. Mm. Let me know how that is. I can actually see the bar now. An itchy nose. Better? Good, good. Alright. Hmm. Still pretty quiet, but depends on what you're going for. Or it's meant to just be like relaxing background noise. So, I think it should be alright. I could still turn it up a smidgen if I do it through here. Hmm. Did that make it worse? Wait. Oh, okay. I don't know if I made it better or worse that time. Alright. Okay. As long as it's like gently there in the background. Oh my god, Johnny. Oh, why did that not work? wait. Okay, we're gonna do a mild bit of troubleshooting because it should have worked. But I think my hotkeys got slightly messed up recently. That's fine. White square. White square. Should. Okay, yeah, my hotkeys got a little messed up. But that's fine. I can fix that so I can fix all of them. I'm not denying you it. I'm just fixing it. I promise. I'll redeem it and fix it in just a second. I'm trying to make sure everything is fixed. So we've got bulk. We've got head pads. We've got white square. My wings should probably be good too. Liz wings. Yeah. Okay. And then I go there. Pop that one back. And do that. There we go. See, I did it. I'm a competent streamer, guys. I can do it. Alright. I mean, I guess my shirt matches. Right. Why? I said. No. Why? Said I, glancing up at my companion. That was surely the bell. Who could come tonight? Some friends of yours, perhaps? Except yourself, I have none, he answered. I do not encourage visitors. A client, then? If so, it is a serious case. Nothing less would bring a man out on such a day and at such an hour, but I take it that it is more likely to be some crony of the landlady's. Sherlock Holmes was wrong in his conjecture, however, for there came a step in the passage and a tapping at the door. He stretched out his long arm to turn the lamp away from himself and towards the vacant chair upon which a newcomer must sit. Come in, he said. The man who entered was young, some 22 at the outside, well groomed and trimly clad, with something of refinement and delicacy in his bearing. The streaming umbrella which he held in his hand and his long shining waterproof told of the fierce weather through which he had come. He looked about him anxiously in the glare of the lamp, and I could see that his face was pale and his eyes heavy, like those of a man who is weighed down with some great anxiety. I owe you an apology, he said, raising the golden pince nez to his eyes. I trust that I am not intruding. I fear that I have brought some traces of the storm and rain into your snug chamber. Give me your coat and umbrella, said Holmes, and they may rest here on the hook, and will be dry presently. You have come up from the southwest, I see. Yes, from Horsham. That clay and chalk mixture, which I see upon your toe caps, is quite distinctive. I have come for advice. That is easily got. And help. That is not always so easy. I have heard of you, Mr. Holmes. I heard from Major Pendergast how you saved him in the Tankerville Club scandal. Ah, of course, he was wrongfully accused of cheating at cards. He said that you could solve anything. He said too much. That you were never beaten. I have been beaten 4 times, 3 times by men, and once by women. Once by a woman. I don't know why, but it is just not the, the response I was expecting at all. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. But what is that compared with the number of your successes? It is true that I have been generally successful. Then you may be so with me. I beg that you will draw up your chair to the fire and favor me with some details as to your case. It is no ordinary one. None of those which come to me are. I am the last court of appeal. And yet I question, sir, whether, in all your experience, you have ever listened to a more mysterious and inexplicable chain of events than those which has happened in my own family. You fill me with interest, said Holmes. Pray give us the essential facts from the commencement, and I can afterwards question you as to those details which seem to me to be most important. The young man pulled his chair up and pushed his wet feet out towards the blaze. My name, said he, is John Openshaw, but my own affairs have, as far as I can understand, little to do with this awful business. It is a bleh? It's a hereditary matter, so in order to give you an idea of the facts, I must go back to the commencement of the affair. Oh, Hiro, there is a timer, so you gotta wait a second before you gamble away all your life savings. Nice, nice, nice. Oh yeah, winning big. You must know that my grandfather had two sons, my uncle Elias and my father Joseph. My father had a small factory at Coventry, which he enlarged at the time of the invention of bicycling. 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 He was a patentee of the Openshaw unbreakable tire, and his business met with such success that he was able to sell it and to retire upon a handsome competence. My uncle Elias immigrated to America when he was a young man and became a planter in Florida, where he was reported to have done very well. At the time of the war, he fought in Jackson's army, and afterwards under Hood, where he rose to be a colonel. When Lee laid down his arms, my uncle returned to his plantation, where he remained for 3 or 4 years. About 1869 or 1870 he came back to Europe, and took a small estate in Sussex, near Horsham. He had made a very considerable fortune in the States, and his reason for leaving them was his aversion to the can't say that word, and his dislike of the Republican policy in extending the franchise to them. He was a singular man, fierce and quick-tempered, very foul-mouthed when he was angry, and of a most retiring disposition. During all those years that he lived at Horsham, I doubt if he ever set foot in the town. He had a garden and 2 or 3 fields around his house, and there he would take his exercise, though very often for weeks on end he would never leave his room. He drank a great deal of brandy, and smoked very heavily, but he would see no society and did not want any friends, not even his own brother. And yet he moved to a house specifically close to his brother, which is interesting. Got something in my eye. He didn't mind me, in fact. He took a fancy to me, for at the time when he saw me first I was a youngster of 12 or so. This would be in the year 1878, after he had been 8 or 9 years in England. He begged my father to let me live with him, and he was very kind to me in his way. When he was sober, he used to be fond of playing backgammon and draughts with me, and he would make me his representative both with the servants and with the tradespeople, so that by the time I was 16 I was quite master of the house. I kept all the keys and could go where I liked and do what I liked, so long as I did not disturb him in his privacy. There was one singular exception, however, for he had a single room, a lumber room up among the attics, which was invariably locked, and which he would never permit either me or anyone else to enter. With a boyish curiosity I have peeped through the keyhole, but I was never able to see more than such a collection of old trunks and bundles as would be expected in such a room. One day, it was March 1883, a letter with a foreign stamp lay upon the table in front of the Colonel's plate. It was not an uncommon thing for him to receive letters, for his bills were all paid in ready money, and he had no. Wait, no, I messed that up. I was like, wait, damn minute. It was not a common thing for him to receive letters, for his bills were all paid in ready money, and he had no friends of any sort. From India, said he as he took it up. Pondicherry postmark. I got my face back. Yippee! Oh, my hands are so cold. Oh no. Oh no. God fucking damn it. Why do I ever say anything at all, actually? That's something I should add. I feel like oh gosh, sorry. Adding a white square emote is kind of moot because that just kind of, I mean I could, but I feel like if I'm gonna add a square for the white square, no. If I'm gonna add an emote for the white square, it needs to be accompanied by like a prayer hands type thing. Mm-hmm. I need to find time to do the emotes. I've got like a really big commission that I'm working on at the moment, so I've just any art is spent on commissions, any art time that I get. But commissions are good because that means I get more money to spend on streams. Right. Da-da-da-da-da. Pondicherry postmark. What can this be? Opening it hurriedly, out there jumped 5 little dried orange pips, which pattered down his plate. I began to laugh at this, but the laugh was struck from my lips at the sight of his face. Hello. Hi, Neon. Hey, 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 welcome in. um, I apologize for my lack of face. We're just reading some Sherlock Holmes. And I'm getting severely distracted by talking. Teehee. Oh no, why does your arm hurt? What happened? Wow. Um, his lips had fallen, his eyes were protruding, his skin the color of putty, and he glared at the envelope which he still held in his trembling hand. KKK, he shrieked. And then, my God, my sins have overtaken me. What is it, uncle? I cried. Death, said he. Oh, Jesus Christ, okay, man. How does 5 orange pips equal death? Sure. I mean, we'll find out. Cutting disc shattered while I was using it, and fragments went into my arm, pulling things out of your own arm. Oh, God, oh, that's really rough. And yeah, I could not even imagine trying to pull that stuff out myself. That sounds so. Ooh. I hope your arm gets better soon, but I think that's gonna be something that's quite rough, isn't it? Every time I get like a moment, I like doing some fishing myself because it's fun. Teehee. Right. Death, said he, and rising from the table, he retired to his room. Oh, leaving me palpitating with horror. I had to calmly ask, yell in pain and agony, my friend to get me a pair of clean pliers to take them out. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Or I genuinely, if I was in that situation, would have just fucking passed out. I'm bad with blood on a good day, like a tiny cut or something. Something like that would. Ooh, yay. Boobo. Sleepy time. Sleepy time? Have you not gone to bed yet? Isn't it like early in the morning? God damn. Um, 6, 7. Oh my god. Ay, 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 Boobo. I do hope you have good sleep. The same day I dropped hot metal on my hand and started. What is happening? Neon. What? Huh? Was it like fucking Friday the 13th or something? Your luck sounds horrible that day. I'm so sorry. That just sounds awful. Welding. Ay, ay, ay. You're in school to be. So it's not even like, oh, it's in school of all places. Like it's not even proper profession stuff yet. Oh, that's so rough. I hope it's otherwise going well though. Take this as a learning opportunity to be safe. Yeah. How is it in general though? Are you enjoying yourself? Good thing I'm making a suit of armor. Ooh, wait, that's cool as hell. I want a suit of armor. I think my sensory issues ass would fucking hate wearing one. But like in theory, I would love a suit of armor, you know? Were the glasses, was the lack of glasses the reason for the injuries? Is there environmental storytelling? Hmm. Not having glasses for a minor prescription caused a cutting. Okay, well, not that injury. I meant more for the dropping hot metal on your hand. Having the dish shatter must have been so like frustrating if it wasn't your fault as well. Like, it's just, ah, thanks for the hydrate. Mm. Ah, good water. It's nice cold water. I grabbed it with one hand, forgetting it was hot. Oh my god. Okay. Death, said he, and rising from the table, he retired to his room, leaving me palpitating with horror. I took up the envelope and saw scrawled in red ink almost upon the inner flap, just above the gum, the letter K 3 times repeated. There was nothing else save the 5 dried pips. What could be the reason for his overpowering terror? I left the breakfast table, and as I ascended the stair, I met him coming down with an old rusty key, which must have belonged to the attic, in one hand, and a small brass box, like a cash box, in the other. They may do what they like, but I'll checkmate them still, he said, he with an oath. Tell Mary that I shall want a fire in my room today, and send down to Fordham the Horsham lawyer. Slice was because a piece of metal fell off a table and I instinctively went to catch it. Oh no. Sounds like just like a rough fucking week. Oh. I hope your week gets better. I hope that all of the many injuries heal soon. I did as ordered, and when the lawyer arrived, I was asked to step up to the room. The fire was burning brightly, and in the grate there was a mass of black fluffy ashes, as of burnt paper, while the brass box stood open and empty beside it. As I glanced at the box, I noticed, with a start, that upon the lid was a printer printed the treble K, which I had read in the morning upon the envelope. I wish you, John, said my uncle, to witness my will. I leave my estate with all its advantages and all its disadvantages to my brother, your father, whence it will no doubt descend to you. Look at these fragments went into my non-dominant hand. That's good at least, yeah. I suppose that is um looking at the bright side of things. The bright side of it all. If you can enjoy it in peace, well and good. If you find you cannot, take my advice, my boy, and leave it to your deadliest enemy. I am sorry to give you such a two-edged thing, but I can't say what turn things are going to take. Kindly sign the paper where Mr. Fordham shows you. I signed the paper as directed, and the lawyer took it away with him. The singular incident made, as you may think, the deepest impression upon me, and I pondered over it and turned it every way in my mind without being able to make anything of it. Yet I could not shake off the vague feeling of dread which it left behind, though the sensation grew less keen as the week passed, and nothing happened to disturb the usual routine of our lives. I could see a change in my uncle, however. He drank more than ever, and he was less inclined for any sort of society. Most of the time he would spend in his room, with the door locked upon the inside, but sometimes he would emerge in a sort of drunken frenzy, and would burst out of the house and tear about the garden with a revolver in his hand, screaming out that he was afraid of no man, and that he could not to be cooped up, like a sheep in a pen, by man or by devil. When these hot fits were he, however, he would rush tumultuously in at the door and lock and bar it behind him, like a man who can brazen it out no longer against the terror which lies at the roots of his soul. At such times I have seen his face, even on a cold day, glisten with moisture, as though it were new raised from a basin. Well, to come to an end of the matter, Mr. Holmes, and not to abuse your patience, there came a night when he was made one of those drunken sallies from which he never came back. We found him, when we went to search for him, face downwards in a little green scummed pool, which lay at the foot of the garden. There was no sign of any violence, and the water was but 2 feet deep, so the jury, having regard to his known eccentricity, brought in a verdict of suicide. But I, who knew how he winced from the very thought of death, had much ado to persuade myself that he has gone out of his way to meet it. The matter passed, however, and my father entered into possession of the estate and of some £14,000, which lay to his credit at the bank. Damn, that's a lot of money. That's a lot more money in that day and age, isn't it? Also, this man is insane. What the fuck? I mean, someone definitely killed him. There's no way that it's not like murder, right? There's so much construction noise happening. I'm just glad the mic's not picking it up because that would be real annoying. But that's a good thing that I've learned is that the mic won't pick up the construction noises, which means I can stream during the day, which is good. Very good. One moment, Holmes interposed. Your statement is, I foresee, one of the most remarkable to which I have ever listened. Let me have the date of the reception by your uncle of the letter, and the date of his supposed suicide. The letter arrived on March 10, 1883. His death was 7 weeks later, upon the night of May 2nd. Thank you. Pray proceed. When my father took over the Horsham property, he, at my request, made a careful examination of the attic, which had always been locked up. We found the brass box there, although its contents had been destroyed. On the insides of the cover was a paper label with the initials of KKK repeated upon it, and letters, memoranda, receipts, and a register written beneath. These, we presume, indicated the nature of the papers which has been destroyed by the Colonel Openshaw. For the rest, there was nothing of much importance in the attic, save a great many scattered papers and notebooks bearing upon my uncle's life in America. Some of them were of the wartime, and showed that he had done his duty well and had borne the repute of a brave soldier. Thank you for the follow, friend. Friend number one. Thank you. I appreciate it. Others were of a date during the reconstruction of the southern states, and were mostly concerned with politics, where he had evidently taken a strong part in opposing the carpet-back politicians who had been sent down from the north. Well, it was the beginning of '84 when my father came to live at Horsham, and all went as well as possible with us until January of '85. On the fourth day after the New Year, I heard my father give a sharp cry of surprise as we sat together at the breakfast table. There he was, sitting with the newly opened envelope in one hand and 5 dried orange pips in the outstretched palm of another. He had always laughed at what he called my cock and bull story about the Colonel, but he looked very scared and puzzled now that the same thing had come upon himself. What the hell? That's so like for the Colonel, I can understand why. He fucking did something. Why did his brother get the 5 pips? I'm so sorry, Hero. Wait, I can. Do, 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 do. I joined Raffles. I thought it feels like insider trading. Nah, you're good. I don't want the points anyways. Me getting the points feels weird. Yeah, me getting points feels weird. See, that's how it should be. I shouldn't be so high up there. It's insider trading if I do it. Why, what on earth does this mean, John? He stammered. My heart turned to lead. It is KKK, said I. He looked inside the envelope. So it is, he cried. Here are the very letters. But what is this written above them? Put the papers on the sundial, I read, peeping over his soldiers. What papers? What sundial? He asked. The sundial in the garden. There is no other, said I, but the papers must be those that are destroyed. What is Hiru? No. No, that's not. I don't want to be at the top of the leaderboard. That feels wrong. Also, that's so precisely 1 point. You did some math there, huh? um, Pooh, he said, gripping hard at his courage. We are in a civilized land here, and we can't have tomfoolery of this kind. Where does this thing come from? From Dundee, I answered, glancing at the postmark. Some preposterous practical joke, said he. What have I to do with sundials and papers? I shall take no notice of such nonsense. I should certainly speak to the police, said I, and be laughed at for my pains. Nothing of the sort. Then let me do so. No, I forbid you. I won't have a fuss made about such nonsense. It was in vain to argue with him, for he was a very obstinate man. I went about, however, with a heart which was full of forebodings. On the third day after the comings of the letter, my father went home to visit an old friend of his, Major Freebody. Who was in command of one of the forts upon Portsdown Hill. I was glad that he should go, for it seemed to me that he was further from danger when he was away from home. In that, however, I was in error. Upon the day of his absence, I received a telegram from the Major imploring me to come at once. My father had fallen over one of the deep chalk pits which abound in the neighbourhood, and was lying senseless with a shattered skull. I hurried to him, but he passed away without ever recovered his consciousness. He had, as it appears, been returning from Fareham in the twilight, and as the country was unknown to him, and the chalk pit unfenced, the jury had no hesitation in bringing in a verdict of death from accidental causes. Carefully as I examined every fact connected with his death, I was unable to find anything which would suggest the idea of murder. There were no signs of violence, no footmarks, no robbery, no record of strangers having been upon the roads. And yet I need not tell you that my mind was far from ease, and that I was well nigh certain that some foul plot had been woven around him. In this sinister way I came into my inheritance. You will ask me why I did not dispose of it. I answer, because I was well convinced that our troubles were in some way dependent upon an incident in my uncle's life, and that the danger would be as pressing in one house as another. That's pretty smart, to be fair. It was in January 85 that my poor father met his end, and 2 years and 8 months have elapsed since then. During that time I have lived happily at Horsham, and I had begun to hope that the curse had passed away from the family, and that it had taken up with the last generation. I had begun to take comfort too soon, however. Yesterday morning the blow fell in the very shape in which it had come upon my father. Ooh, that's what I thought was gonna happen. He got pipped. I don't know if that has another meaning to it, but I like it. He got pipped. The young man took from his waistcoat a crumpled envelope, and turning to the table, he shook upon it 5 little dried orange pits. 142 gold? Hell yeah! I am God. I am your God. This is the envelope, he continued. The postmark is London, Eastern Division. Within are the very words which were upon my father's last message, KKK, and then put the papers on the sundial. What have you done? Asked Holmes. Nothing. Nothing? To tell the truth, he sank his face into his thin white hands. I have felt helpless. I have felt like one of those poor rabbits when the snake is writhing towards it. I seem to be in the grasp of some resistless, inexplorable evil, which no foresight and no precautions can guard against. Tut tut tut, cried Sherlock Holmes. Oh, let's see. No, no, it's not bad though, 75. It's not awful. You must act, man, or you are lost. Nothing but energy can save you. This is no time for despair. I have seen the police. Ah, but they listen to my story with a smile. I am convinced the inspector has formed an opinion that the letters are all practical jokes, and that the deaths of my relations were really accidents, as the jury stated, and were not to be connected with the warnings. Holmes shook his clenched hands in the air. Incredible imbecility, he cried. I don't know why, but all I can picture is like a grizzly old man with like his fist in the air going, ah, kids these days. Like that's not what Holmes is at all. Do you play Souls like Sherry? No. That's just there because the meme is funny because I am bad at video games and die a lot. You I was gonna say you could not pay me enough to play Souls likes, but no, you could probably pay me a certain amount to play Souls likes. I wouldn't be good at them, which might make them more entertaining to stream though. Listen, my boyfriend isn't here to attest to it, but like, if it's a fighting game, I am bad at it. I was bad at Genshin. You cannot pay me to make me dodge an attack. I tried playing Hollow Knight. It did not go well. I ended up downloading mods because I was like, I can't deal with this fucking combat. It's evil. It's too difficult. I did finish it. I finished it with the help of mods because I was determined to see the story through. I wanted to I liked the story, so I wanted to experience it. It was just I didn't want to sit through the same battle again and again and again and again. So I just got a mod to make myself stronger. I still had to fight. I still had to do some amount of strategy, but it just made me hit harder so that it didn't last fucking 7 years. It's a good game though. I like the story of it. I need to watch a playthrough of what's her name? No. Fucking the second Hollow Knight Silksong. There we go. Running from someone. Oh, IDK. Why are you running from Sailor? What did you do? I've got her stream up and muted in the background, so I don't actually know what's happening there. Are you gonna play Silksong? I want to, but the game mechanics in Silksong look like they would make me want to kill myself in the nicest way possible. Like, it's a stunning game, but if my boyfriend is like struggling with it, then I cannot touch that game with a 10-foot pole. Yeah, it is harder. And also, it took me days to figure out like the pogoing in Hollow Knight. Like, I'm not kidding when I tell you it took me days. And even then, by the end, I was not good at it. I just didn't die immediately at it. Silksong is diagonal pogoing. Fuck that shit. Oh my god. No. Oh my god, hi. Ah, Big Raid. Hello. Hi, welcome in. IDK, you're just lurking here? Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Hi, hi, hi. I talking about video games. I'm so like, hello, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Just doing a bit of reading some Sherlock Holmes and getting severely distracted talking about video games with chat and how bad I am at fights. But hi, my name's Cherry. I'm a little fairy. Thanks for the follows. Oh my god, so many of you. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Ah, you're so cute. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm not even in my usual ruffly outfit. We're just being a little bit cozy, a little bit bedtimey tonight. But hi, I hope you had a good stream. How was it? I'm so unused to this. I'm like, raid etiquette. I'm like running through a checklist in my head. I've introduced myself. I've thanked you guys. I do really appreciate it. And that means I met my follower goal too. Hell yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you. Oh, it was cozy. Yeah. Good cozy times. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm glad you liked it. Thank you, thank you. I hope you all have a very good night. Day all. Let me try to pick back up reading. If I can remember where I stopped. Where did we stop? Oh yeah. Holmes being an old man and shaking his fist in the air. Okay. They have, however, allowed me a policeman who may remain in the house with me. Has he come with you tonight? No. His orders were to stay in the house. What the fuck? Again, Holmes raved in the air. Why did you come to me? He cried. And above all, why did you not come at once? I did not know. It was only today that I spoke to Major Pendergrast about my troubles and was advised by him to come to you. It is really 2 days since you had the letter. We should have acted before this. You have no further evidence, I suppose, than that which you have placed before us? No suggestive detail which might help us? There is one thing, said John Openshaw. Oh god, there we go. He rummaged in his coat pocket and drawing out a piece of discolored blue-tinted paper, he laid it out upon the table. I have some remembrance, said he, that on the day when my uncle burnt the papers I observed that the small, unburned margins which lay amidst the ashes were of this particular colour. I found the single sheet upon the floor of his room, and I am inclined to think that it may be one of the papers which has, perhaps, fluttered out from among the others, and in that way has escaped destruction. Beyond the mention of Pips, I do not see that it helps us much. I think that it is a page from some private diary. The writing is undoubtedly my uncle's. Holmes moved the lamp, and we both bent over the sheet of paper, which showed by its ragged edge that it had indeed been torn from a book. It was headed March 1869, and beneath were the following enigmatical notices. 4th, Hudson came, same old platform. 7th, set the Pips on Macaulay, Paramore, and John Swain of St. Augustine. 9th, Macaulay cleared. 10th, John Swain cleared. 12th, visit Paramore, all well. Thank you, said Holmes, folding up the paper and returning it to our visitor. And now you must come on no account lose another instant. We cannot spare time to even discuss what you have told me. You must get home instantly and act. Oh gosh, I'm getting all turned around. Um, there we go. What shall I do? There is but one thing to do. It must be done at once. You must put this piece of paper which you have shown us into the box which you described. You must also put in a note to say that all the other papers were burned by your uncle, and that this is the only one which remains. You must assert that in such words as will carry conviction with them. Having done this, you must at once put the box out upon the sundial as directed. Do you understand? Entirely. Do not think of revenge or anything of the sort. At present, I think that we may gain that by means of the law, but we have our web to weave, while theirs is already woven. The first consideration is to remove the pressing danger which finally threatens you. The second is to clear up the mystery and to punish the guilty parties. I thank you, said the young man, rising and pulling on his overcoat. You have given me a fresh life and hope. I shall certainly do as you advise. I fear that this man is not going to make it home if he is going alone. Ay, ay, ay. Do not lose an instant, and above all, take care of yourself in the meanwhile, for I do not think that there can be any doubt that you are threatened by a very real and imminent danger. How do you go back? By train from Waterloo. It is not yet 9. The streets will be crowded, so I trust that you may be in safety, and yet you cannot guard yourself too closely. I am armed. That is well. Tomorrow I shall set to work upon your case. I shall see you at Horsham then? No, your secret lies in London. It is there that I shall seek it. Then I shall call upon you in a day or in 2 days with news as to the box and the papers. I shall take your advice in every particular. He shook hands with us and took his leave. Outside the wind still screamed and the rain splashed and pattered against the windows. This strange wild story seemed to have come to us from amid the mad elements, blown in upon us like a sheet of seaweed in a gale, and now to have been reabsorbed by them once more. Hi! See, I want to pronounce your name as Verte, but I don't know if that's correct. Like a Verte. But hi! I'm doing good, I'm doing good. How are you? It's very early in the morning for me, but I am all snug as a bug. And thanks for the follow, I appreciate it. Hi, Warcraft. Hi. Welcome back. Snug as a bug in a rock. God damn it, Johnny. You should not be able to do that. I could have sworn there was a limit on my redeem to be once per person. I could have sworn it was once per stream per person. Hmm. There are sinister happenings occurring. Very good. You can pronounce it with or without the rolling R's. Ah, I like rolling R's. It's a very natural thing. No, brain. It's a very natural thing to do in my language, so it kind of comes easy, and a lot of the time unintentionally as well. Um. There we go. Sherlock Holmes sat for some time in silence, with his head sunk forward and his eyes bent upon the red glow of the fire. Ah! Why are you bonking me? I didn't do anything. I'm just a baby. Why not? Okay, fair enough. Touche. Then he lit his pipe And leaning back in his chair, he watched the blue smoke rings as they clashed up, chased each other up to the ceiling. I think, Watson, he remarked at last, that of all our cases we have had none more fantastic than this. Save perhaps the sign of four. Well, yes, save perhaps that. And yet this John Openshaw seems to me to be walking amid even greater perils than the Sholtos. But have you, I asked, formed any definite conception as to what these perils are? There can be no question as to their nature, he answered. Then what are they? Who is this KKK and why does he pursue this unhappy family? Sherlock Holmes closed his eyes and placed his elbows together upon the arms of his chair with his fingertips together. The ideal reasoner, he remarked, would, when he had once been shown a single fact in all its bearings, deduce from it not only the chain of events which led up to it, but also all the results which would allow from it. Wait, why am I getting back-to-back epic fishes? Fuck yeah, that's so good. Maybe the fishing game is rigged, actually. No, oh no, maybe I shouldn't be the one saying it's rigged, but yeah, yeah. As Cuvier would correctly describe a whole animal by the contemplation of a single bone, so the observer who has thoroughly understood one link in the series of incidents should be able to accurately state all the other ones both before and after. We have not yet grasped the results which the reason alone can attain to. Problems may be solved in that study which have baffled all those who have sought a solution by the aid of their senses. To carry the art, however, to its highest pitch, it is necessary that the reasoner should be able to utilize all the facts which have come to his knowledge, and this in itself implies, as you will readily see, a possession of all knowledge, which, even in these days of free education and encyclopedias, is somewhat rare accomplishment. It is not so impossible, however, that a man should possess all knowledge which is likely to be useful to him in his work, and this I have endeavored in my case to do. If I remember rightly, you on one occasion in the early days of our friendship defined my limits in a very precise fashion. Yes, I answered, laughing. It was a singular document. Philosophy, astronomy, and politics were marked at zero, I remember. Botany variable, geology profound as regards to mud stains from any region within 50 miles of town. Chemistry is eccentric, anatomy unsystematic. Sensational literature and crime records unique, violin player, boxer, swordsman, lawyer, and self poisoner by cocaine and tobacco. Those, I think, were the main points of my analysis. Self poisoner by cocaine and tobacco. If I forgot that Sherlock canonically does coke. I did I did genuinely kind of forget that. Because obviously that's not something you see in the more recent adaptations. Okay. Um Sorry. Holmes grinned at the last item. Well, he said, I see now, as I said then, that a man should keep his little brain attic stocked with all the furniture that is likely to use, and the rest he can put away in the lumber room of his library, where he can get it if he wants it. Now, for such a case, as one which has been submitted to us tonight, we need certainly to muster all our resources. Kindly hand me down the letter K of the American Encyclopedia. which stands upon the shelf behind you, beside you. Thank you. Now let us consider the situation and see what may be deduced from it. In the first place, we may start with the strong presumption that the Colonel Openshaw had some very strong reason for leaving America. Men at his time of life do not change their habits and exchange willingly the charming climate of Florida for the lonely life of an English provincial town. His extreme love of solitude in England suggests the idea that he was in fear of someone or something, so we may assume as a working hypothesis that it was fear of someone or something that drove him from America. As to what he feared, we can only deduce that by considering the formidable letters which were received by himself and his successors. Did you remark the postmarks of those letters? The first was from Pondicherry, the second from Dundee, and the third from London. From East London, what do you deduce from that? They are all seaports, that the writer was on board of a ship. Excellent. We already have a clue. There can be no doubt that the probability, the strong probability, is that the writer was on board of a ship. And now let us consider the point. Let us consider another point. In the case of Pondicherry, 7 weeks elapsed between the threat and its fulfillment. In Dundee, it was only some 3 or 4 days. Does that suggest anything? A greater distance to travel. But the letter had also a greater distance to come. Then I do not see the point. There is at least a presumption that the vessel in which the man or men are is a sailing ship. It looks as if they always send their singular warning or token before them when starting upon their mission. You see how quickly the deed followed the sign when it came from Dundee. If they had come from Pondicherry in a steamer, they would have arrived almost as soon as their letter. But as a matter of fact, 7 weeks elapsed. I think that those 7 weeks presented the difference between the mail boat which brought the letter and the sailing vessel which brought the writer. Oh no, Johnny. It is possible. More than that, it is probable. And now you see the deadly urgency of this new case, and why I urged young Openshaw to caution. This blow has always fallen at the end of time which it would take the senders to travel the distance, but this one comes from London, and therefore we cannot count upon delay. Good God, I cried, what can it mean, this relentless persecution? There you go, hero. See, that's good. That's 94 gold. That's good, that's good. Um, sorry. That's being there. Cool. Ah, my face returns. Okay. The papers which Openshaw carried are obviously of vital importance to the person or persons on the sailing ship. I think that it is quite clear that there must be more than one of them. A single man could not have carried out two deaths in such a way as to deceive a coroner's jury. There must have been several in it, and they must have been men of resource and determination. Their papers they mean to have, be the holder of them who it may. In this way, you see, KKK ceases to be the initials of an individual and becomes a badge of a society. But of what society? Have you never, said Sherlock Holmes, bending forward and sinking his voice, have you never heard of the Ku Klux Klan? I never have. Holmes turned over the leaves of the book upon his knee. Here it is, said he presently. Ku Klux Klan, a name derived from the fanciful resemblance to the sound produced by by cocking a rifle. Okay. This terrible secret society was formed by some ex-Confederate soldiers in the southern states after the Civil War, and it rapidly formed local branches in different parts of the country, notably in Tennessee, Louisiana, the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. Bear with me. Its power was used for political purposes, principally for the terrorizing of, voters, and the murdering and driving from the country of those who were opposed to its views. Its outrages were usually preceded by a warning sent to the marked man in some fantastic but generally recognizable shape. A sprig of oak leeks in some parts, melon seeds, or orange pips in others. On receiving this, the victim might either openly abjure for his former ways or might fly from the country. If he braved the matter out, death would be unfailingly come upon him, and usually in some strange and unforeseen manner. So perfect was the organization of the society and so systematic its methods that there is hardly a case upon record where any man succeeded in braving it with impunity, or in which any of its outrages were traced home to the perpetrators. For some years, the organization flourished in spite of the efforts of the United States government and of the better classes of the community in the South. Eventually, the year 1869, the movement rather suddenly collapsed, although there have been some sporadic outbreaks of the same sort since that date. Just like I got a mild history lesson, that's great. You you will observe, said Holmes, laying down the volume, that the sudden breaking up of the society was coincident with the disappearance of Openshaw from America with their papers. It may well have been cause and effect. It is no wonder that he and his family have some of the more implacable spirits upon their track. You can understand that the register and diary may implicate some of the first men in the South, and that there may be many who will not sleep easy at night until it is recovered. Then the page we have seen, it is such as we might expect. It ran, if I remember right, sent the pips to A, B, and C. That is, sent the society's warning to them. Then there are successive entries that A and B cleared or left the country, and that finally that C was visited, with, I fear, a sinister result for C. Well, I think, Doctor, that we may have some light into this dark place, and I believe the only chance young Openshaw has in the meantime is to do what I have told him. There is nothing more to be said or to be done tonight. So hand me over my violin, and let us try to forget for half an hour the miserable weather and the still more miserable ways of our fellow men. Oop, my back. It had cleared in the morning, and the sun was shining with a subdued brightness through the dim veil which hangs over the great city. Sherlock Holmes was already at breakfast when I came down. You will excuse me for not waiting for you, said he, for I see. Um, sorry. You will excuse me for not waiting for you, said he. I have, I foresee, a very busy day before me in looking into this case of the young Openshaws. What steps will you take? I asked. It will very much depend upon the results of my first inquiries. I may have to go down to Horsham after all. You will not go there first? No, I shall commence with the city. Just ring the bell and the maid will bring up your coffee. Stupid construction. It's doing some kind of hammering and the mic is actually picking it up and it's pissing me off. Stupid. I mean, these neighbors have had their they have had their house under construction for 4 fucking years. It has been driving me insane. They like built it and then apparently didn't like it and just destroyed it and now rebuilt it. So, oh my god, it was awful. I swear to God, that's what it feels like. I don't. I mean, it's like what 3 stories? I think. I mean, it's a big family. There's like 2 or 3 brothers and like their whole wives and kids and all together building it or whatever. It's fucking annoying. Going to bed now. Have a lovely rest of your stream. Your voice is so cozy. Thank you. I hope you have a very good night. And thank you again for the raid. I really appreciate it. Good night. um, As I waited, I lifted the unopened newspaper from the table and glanced my eye over it. It rested upon a heading which sent a chill to my heart. Holmes, I cried. You are too late. I knew it. Yeah, there was no way that man was making it home. Why did you send him home alone? Ah, said he, laying down his cup. I feared as much. How was it done? He spoke calmly, but I could see that he was deeply moved. My eye caught the name of Openshaw and the heading Tragedy near Waterloo Bridge. Here is the account. Between 9 and 10 last night, Police Constable Cook of the H Division on duty near Waterloo Bridge heard a cry for help and a splash in the water. The night, however, was extremely dark and stormy, so that, in spite of the help of several passersby, it was quite impossible to effect a rescue. The alarm, however, was given, and by the aid of the water police, the body was eventually recovered. It was proved to be that of a young gentleman whose name, as it appears from an envelope which was found in his pocket, was John Openshaw, and whose residence near Horsham. It is conjectured that he may have been hurrying down to catch the last train from Waterloo Station. Loud as aeroplane. Um, and that in his haste and the extreme darkness he missed his path and walked over the edge of one of the small landing places for river steamboats. The body exhibited no traces of violence, and there can be no doubt that the deceased had been a victim of an unfortunate accident, which should have the effect of calling the attention of the authorities to the condition of the riverside landing stages. We sat in silence for some moments, Holmes more depressed and shaken than I had ever seen him. That hurts my pride, Watson, he said at last. It is a petty feeling, no doubt, but it hurts my pride. It becomes a personal matter with me now, and, if God sends me help, I shall set my hand upon this gang. That he should come to me for help and that I should send him away to his death. He sprang from his chair and paced about the room in an uncontrollable agitation, with a flush upon his sallow cheeks and a nervous clasping and unclasping of his long thin hands. They must be cunning devils, he exclaimed at last. How could they have decoyed him down there? The embankment is not in a direct line to the station. The bridge, no doubt, was too crowded, even on such a night, for their purpose. Well, Watson, we shall see who will win in the long run. I am going out now. To the police? No, I shall be my own police. When I have spun the web, they may take the flies, but not before. All day I was engaged in my professional work, and it was late in the evening before I returned to Baker Street. Sherlock Holmes had not come back yet. It was nearly 10 o'clock before he entered, looking pale and worn. He walked up the sideboard and tearing a piece from the loaf, he devoured it voraciously, washing it down with a long draught of water. Oh, it is a big stretch. You are hungry, I remarked. Starving. It had escaped my memory. I have had nothing since breakfast. Nothing? Not a bite. I had no time to think of it. And how have you succeeded? Well, you have a clue? I have them in the hollow of my hand. Young Openshaw shall not remain unavenged. Why, Watson, let us put their own devilish trademark upon them. It is well thought of. What do you mean? He took an orange from the cupboard, and tearing it to pieces, he squeezed out the pips upon the table. Of these he took 5 and thrust them to an envelope. On the inside of the flap he wrote SH for J.O. Then he sealed it and addressed it to Captain James Calhoun, Bark Lone Star, Savannah, Georgia. That will await him when he enters port, said he, chuckling. It may give him a sleepless night. He will find it as sure a precursor of his fate as Openshaw did before him. And who is this Captain Calhoun? Calhoun? That's not how it's pronounced, I know that. The leader of the gang. I shall have the others, but he first. How did you trace it then? He took a large sheet of paper from his pocket, all covered with dates and names. I have spent the whole day, said he, over Lloyd's registers and files of the old papers, following the future career of every vessel which has touched Pondicherry in January and February in '83. There were 36 ships of fair tonnage which were reported there during those months. Of these, one, the Lone Star, instantly attracted my attention, since although it was reported as having cleared from London, the name is that which is given to one of the states of the Union. Texas, I think. I was not, and I'm not sure which, but I knew that ship must have been an American origin. You did it, Hiru. See, you can catch it too. It's not rigged, I swear. You got a good fish. That's good, good, good. Ooh, I would unrig it for you. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What then? I searched the Dundee records, and when I found that the Bark Lone Star was there in January 85, my suspicion became a certainty. I then inquired as to the vessels which lay at present in the port of London. Yes, the Lone Star had arrived here last week. I went down to the Albert dock and found she had been taken down the river by the early tide this morning, homeward bound to Savannah. I wired to Gravesend and learned that she had passed some time ago, and as the wind is easterly, I have no doubt that she is now past the Goodwins and not far off the Isle of Wight. What will you do, then? Oh, I have my hand upon him. He and the two mates are, as I learn, the only native-born Americans in the ship. The others are Finns and Germans. I know also that they were all three away from the ship last night. I had it from the stevedore, who's been loading their cargo. By the time that their sailing ship reaches Savannah, the mailboat will have carried this letter, and the cable will have informed the police of Savannah that these three gentlemen are badly wanted here upon a charge of murder. There is ever a flaw, however, in the best laid of human plans, and the murderers of John Openshaw were never to receive the orange pips which would um, them show them that another, as cunning and as resolute as themselves, was upon their track. Very long and very severe were the equinoctial gales that year. We waited long for the news of the Lone Star of Savannah, but none ever reached us. We did at last hear that somewhere far out in the Atlantic, a shattered stern post of a boat was seen swinging in the trough of a wave, with the letters LS carved upon it, and that is all which we shall ever know of the fate of the Lone Star. That's the ending? No! I am kind of annoyed that they did not get justice, I suppose, but like retribution or whatever for that. Ugh, that's so annoying. Oh my god. Mm, 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 mm. Ah, next one. The man with the twisted lip. Okay, I'm so cold. Right. Dum 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 dum. I'm gonna take a little bit of a break from reading to do a thing. I should see about getting something to eat. Eventually. Not on stream, at least. Um, get a blanket. Yeah, I could do, but I'm lazy. Getting the blanket out requires opening a very heavy lid, and I am not very, you know, strong. I was gonna do something and I completely forgot. Dum ba dum bum ba. Frick matanga da. Um, okay. A little bit of a quiet moment while we just chill. Right. I will continue reading. The Man with the Twisted Lip. Wait, what time is it? Oh, thank you, the I can't speak today. Thank you for following, Turdy. Turdy. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Yes, I am figuring it out. The PDF, which I am reading from, like the first letter of the story is like that fancy script, and I cannot tell what this letter is meant to be. And usually I can figure out from context clues because it'll have like other words and stuff. But this time it's a name, and it's a three-letter name. I am so confused what it's meant to be. I'm trying to like scroll and hope that it's been mentioned again, maybe. But I don't see it. Okay, okay. I'll send a little pic. Oh, that was loud. Computer, why are you so loud? Actually, there we go. Just come on board. There, I popped it in general. Like it could be a J, but that doesn't make sense. That makes sense. Yeah, could be an I for sure. Let's assume that. Oh god, let's assume it's an I then. Isa. I hope my mic is too much in my face. There we go. Isa Whitney, brother of the late Elias Whitney, D.D., principal of the Theological College of St. George's, was much addicted to opium. Why is that so funny as an opening? Yeah, this is so casual. And that's the opening of this story as well. Like, John Watson decided that the most important fact of this case that he had to start off with was that this random guy was addicted to opium. We don't even know who he is, like, in connection to the story yet. Oh, yes, by the way, she loved opium. For real. Oh, Lord. Oh, okay. The habit grew upon him, as I understand, from some foolish streak when he was in college, For having read De Quincey's description of his dreams and sensations, he had drenched his tobacco with laudanum in an attempt to produce the same effects. He found, as so many more have done, that the practice is easier to attain rather than to get rid of, and for many years he continued to be a slave to the drug, an object of mingled horror and pity to his friends and relatives. I can see him now with yellow, pasty face, drooping lids, and pinpoint pupils, all huddled in a chair, the wreck and ruin of a noble man. One night, it was in June '89, there came a ring to my bell, about the hour when a man gives his first yawn and glances at the clock. I sat up in my chair, and my wife laid her needlework down on her lap and made a little face of disappointment. "A patient," she said. "You will have to go out." I groaned, for I was newly come back from a weary day. We heard the door open, a few hurried words, and then quick steps upon the linoleum. Our own door flew open, and a lady, clad in some dark stuff with a black veil, entered the room. Okay, this is a freaking construction. That's fine. Everything's fine. Nothing is wrong. I'll be okay. "You will excuse me calling so late," she began, and then, suddenly losing her self control, she ran forward, threw her arms about my wife's neck, and sobbed upon her shoulder. "Oh, I'm in such trouble," she cried. "I do so want little help." I'm just glaring at my window as if that's gonna fix the noise. Maybe I should yell at them. I shouldn't. I'm not going to yell at them. Oh, thanks for the hydrate. That they feel the side eye from here. I hope they do, because I can tell that they're doing whatever hammering they're doing right at the wall, which is like where my window faces. So it's like not that far away from me at all, and it's really annoying. Mm. Um, why, said my wife, pulling up her veil, it is Kate Whitney. How you startled me, Kate. I had not an idea who you were when you came in. I didn't know what to do, so I came straight to you. That was always the way. Folk who were in grief came to my wife like birds to a lighthouse. It was very sweet of you to come. Now you must have some wine and water and sit here comfortably and tell us about it. Or should you rather that I sent James off to bed? Oh, no, no, I want the doctor's advice and help too. It's about Isa. You were right, Hiru. It is an I. He has not been home for 2 days. I am so frightened about him. Sherlock will have to figure out the murder of your neighbors soon. Yeah. I don't. That reminds me. This is a tangent. But the fishing thing reminded me. I found this widget while I was scrolling that lets you play essentially Wordle on stream, like let's chat play Wordle. And I was thinking of maybe getting it for the ASMR streams, and like we just queue up a bunch of words. I think that could be fun for you guys. So I might grab that for next time. Tee. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Um, it was not the first time that she had spoken to us of her husband's trouble, but to me as a doctor, to my wife, to me as a doctor, to my wife as an old friend and companion. We soothed and comforted her by such words as we could find. Little did she know where her husband was. Was it possible that we could bring him back to her? It seems that it was. She had the surest information that of the late he had, when the fit was upon him, made use of an opium den in the farthest east of the city. Hitherto, his orgies. Hello? I know that that doesn't mean. I think it doesn't mean what we use it for these days. Oh my god. So silly. Shalabala. Okay. Hitherto, his orgies had always been confined to one day, and he had come back, twitching and shattered in the evening. That doesn't help. The rest of the sentence doesn't fucking help. Oh, oh my god. Okay. But now the spell had been upon him 8 and 40 hours, and he lay there, doubtless amongst the dregs of the docks, breathing in the poison or sleeping off the effects. There he was to be found, she was sure of it, at the bar of gold. What the fuck was that? That didn't even come from outside, that came from my house. What the fuck? Huh? Parrots' room is above mine, so I'm assuming they're moving furniture around, but that's weird as hell time of day to do that. Jesus, the things that happen in this house and the reasons why I don't stream during the day for real. Right. Um, but what was she to do? How could she, a young and timid woman, make her way into such a place and pluck her husband out from amongst the ruffians who surrounded him? There was the case, and of course there was but one way out of it. Might I not escort her to this place? And then, as a second thought, why should she come at all? I was Isa Whitney's medical advisor, and as such I had influence over him. I could manage it better if I were alone. I promised her on my word that I would send him home in a cab within 2 hours, if he were indeed at the address which she had given me. And so in 10 minutes I had left my armchair and Cherry's sitting room behind me, and was speeding eastward in a hansom in a strange errand, as it seemed to me at the time, though the future could only show how strange it was to be. But there was no great difficulty in the first stage of my adventure. Up a Swandam Lane was a vile alley lurking behind the high wharves which line the north side of the river to the east of London Bridge, between a slop shop and a gin shop, approached by a steep flight of stairs leading down to a black gap like the mouth of a cave. I found the den of which I was in search. God damn. Um, where the fuck did I stop? There we go. Ordering my cab to wait, I passed down the steps, worn hollow in the center by the ceaseless tread of drunken feet, and by the light of a flickering oil lamp above a door, I found the latch. Someone is going to fucking die. I pulled back my curtain and the sun was too bright. I got debuffed. They're like shoveling something? It's an awful sound. I hate it. Oh my god. Shut the fuck up, you fuckers. Can you not do this on the other side of the goddamn house? Okay, well, anyways, I'm just gonna keep reading and suffering, I guess. But um, I found the latch and made my way into a long, low room, thick and heavy with the brown opium smoke, and terraced with wooden berths like the forecastle of an immigrant ship. Through the gloom, one could dimly catch a glimpse of bodies lying in strange, fantastic poses, bowed shoulders, bent knees, heads thrown back, and chins pointing upwards, with here and there a dark, lackluster eye turned upon the newcomer. Out of the black shadows there glimmered little red circles of light, now bright, now faint, as the burning poison waxed or waned in the bowls of the metal pipes. The most lay silent, but some muttered to themselves, and others talked together in a strange, low, monotonous voice, their conversation coming in gushes, and then suddenly tailing off into silence, each mumbling out his own thoughts and paying little heed to the words of his neighbour. At the further end was a small brazier of burning charcoal, besides which, on a three-legged wooden stool there, sat a tall, thin old man, with his jaw resting upon his fists and his elbows upon his knees, staring into the fire. Bear with me. Sorry. I've got Sailor's stream up in the background, and I gave her a bonk, and she got mad, and so I got bonked back, which is fair, and it's also very funny. I love that girl. All right. Um, as I entered, a sallow Malay attendant hurried up with a pipe for me and a supply of the drug, beckoning me to an empty berth. Thank you. I have not come to stay, said I. There is a friend of mine here, Mr. Isa Whitney, and I wish to speak with him. Ah, you've got me pulled up too. I did not realize that. Hello. And thanks for the follow, Agadoo. Thank you. Ah, hey. I only bonked her once. Why am I receiving so much retaliation? Wow. But also, hi. Bonk wars. Okay, wait, I have points. Let me, shit. I'm gonna do that one. Haha. I've never done that one, I don't think. I can't actually hear her stream though. Alright. Hey, you little shit. Let's go, Hiru. Hiru got my revenge for me. This is this is actually chat warfare happening at this point. Oh my god. I need to set up a command for lurking. I have the redeem, but I should set up a little command response for it. Right? It's fucking. Too much of the stream has been me censored. But oh well. Alright. Right. I have not come to stay, said I. What is happening? This fucking stupid Grr. Soon there shall be the case of the murdered neighbors. I fucking hate them. Right. There is a friend of mine here, Mr. Esau Whitney, and I wish to speak with him. There was a movement and an exclamation from my right, and peering through the gloom, I saw Whitney, pale, haggard, and unkempt, staring out at me. My God, it's Watson, said he. He was in a pitiable state of reaction, with every nerve in a twitter. I say, Watson, what o'clock is it? Nearly 11. Of what? How? Hey! Why am I catching strays now? I didn't do anything this time. Hello? Oh my god. Let me add her. I'm in her chat. I'm looking at what you guys are saying. None of you will be a bigger fan than me of Sailor, okay? Rude ass. No, it's fine. Oh my god. Yes, Hiru. She stole your seaweed, and yet you're rooting for her? That doesn't make any sense to me. How can you be on her side then, huh? Huh? Hey. Interstream warfare. Shit, I'm running out of points. Oops, my hand cream fell. Right. I say, Watson, what o'clock is it? Nearly 11. Of what day? Of Friday, June 19th. Good heavens, I thought it was Wednesday. It is Wednesday. What do you want to frighten a chap for? He sunk his face into his arms and began to sob in a high treble key. I tell you that it is Friday, man. Your wife has been waiting this 2 days for you. You should be ashamed of yourself. So I am, but you've got mixed, Watson, for I have only been here a few hours. 3 pipes, 4 pipes, I forget how many, but I'll go home with you. I wouldn't frighten Kate. Poor little Kate. Give me your hand. Have you a cab? Yes, I have one waiting. Then I shall go in it. But I must owe something. Find what I owe, Watson. I am all off color. I can do nothing for myself. Yeah, no shit, you're fucking high as fucking opium. I walked down the narrow passage between the double row of sleepers, holding my breath to keep out the vile, stupefying fumes of the drug, and looking about for the manager. As I passed the tall man who sat by the brazier, I felt a sudden pluck at my skirt, and a low voice whispered to me, "Walk past me and then look back at me." The words fell quite distinctly upon my ear. I glanced down. They could have only come from the old man at my side, and yet he sat now as absorbed as ever, very thin, very wrinkly. Bent with age, an opium pipe dangling down from between his legs as though it had dropped in sheer lassitude from his fingers. I took 2 steps forward and looked back. It took all my self-control to prevent me from breaking out into a cry of astonishment. He had turned his back so that none could see him but I. His form had filled out, his wrinkles were gone, the dull eyes had regained their fire, and there, sitting by the fire and grinning at my surprise, was none other than Sherlock Holmes. Oh my god, I was wondering when Sherlock would show up. That's quite funny. Oh my god. Um, he made a slight motion to me to approach him, and instantly, as he turned his face half round to the company once more, subsided into a doddering, loose-lipped senility. Senile. I know the word comes from senile. Senility? Nope. I don't know how words are pronounced, and that's fine. Hee hee. Holmes, I whispered, what on earth are you doing in this den? As low as you can, he answered. I have excellent ears. If you would have the great kindness to get rid of that sottish friend of yours, I should be exceedingly glad to have a little talk with you. I have a cab outside. Then pray send him home in it. You may safely trust him, for he appears to be. Oh God, hello. Oh my God, hi. Thank you, Sailor. Hello. Hi, hi, hi. Wow. Hey. I am sorry that my face is censored, but also blame Sailor. But hi, welcome in, Raiders. How was your stream, Sailor? I mean, yeah, I was watching it. I couldn't hear much, but how was it? I hope it was good. Long, yeah. I did not expect you to be going as long as you did, honestly. It's impressive as fuck. Like, holy shit. Oh, hi, y'all. Hope it was fun, though. Welcome, everybody. Ah, I'm reading Sherlock Holmes because, of course, I'm reading Sherlock Holmes. I'm obsessed with this man. Yeah, it's more of a what's it called? The short stories are easy to read. We were robbed of channel points. Oh no! Copying the code. Excuse you. I came up with this idea way before. I just am lazy. One of my IRL friends suggested to me reading streams like months ago, but I took too long to execute it because too much shit happened in life. I also just love Sherlock Holmes and murder mysteries and mysteries in general. So I play puzzle games all the time. We're going to be playing Nancy Drew soon. So, if anyone's a fan of puzzles, y'all are welcome to stick around. I'm going to try and boot some of the old Nancy Drew puzzle games for stream either tonight or tomorrow, depending on how much time I have. Because you're just busy as well. Yeah, life gets in the way. Is it Nancy Drew book series? It is. It also has games. Lots of games. Like the latest one is like full proper. I think it came out a couple years ago. The old ones are like old point and click type stuff. Um, it's a whole big franchise, Nancy Drew. That's amazing. I love her. I wish I could read her books, but that is not in the public domain yet. At least not the ones that I like. The original ones are, and those aren't great because they don't have like the side characters that I love. My face, it's back. Hi, y'all can see my face now. Hello, 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 hello. Shall I continue some reading? Y'all have your. We've got gambling, we've got fishing, and you're welcome to have chaos. Love chaos is good. Oh, no. Hi, Leaf. Welcome in, welcome in. Hi. Right. Then pray send him home in it. You may safely trust him, for he appears to be too limp to get into any mischief. I should recommend you also to send a note by the cabman to your wife to say that you have thrown in your lot with me. If you will wait outside, I shall be with you in 5 minutes. It was difficult to refuse any of Sherlock Holmes's requests. but they were always so exceedingly definite and put forward with such an air of mastery. I felt, however, that when Whitney was once confined in the cab, my mission was practically accomplished, and for the rest, I could not wish anything better than to be associated with my friend in one of those singular adventures which were the normal condition of his existence. In a few moments, in a few minutes, I had written my note, paid Whitney's bill, led him out to the cab, and seen him driven through the darkness. In a very short time, a decrepit figure had emerged from the opium den, and I was walking down the street where Sherlock Holmes. For 2 streets he shuffled along with a bent back and an uncertain foot. Then, glancing quickly around, he straightened himself out and burst into a hearty fit of laughter. Of course he did. Got some gamble winnings. Nice, nice. I suppose, Watson, said he, that you imagine that I have added opium smoking to cocaine injections and all the other little weaknesses on which you have favored me with your medical views. I was certainly surprised to find you there, but not more so than I to find you. I came to find a friend, and I to find an enemy. An enemy? Yes, one of my natural enemies, or shall I say, my natural prey. This man's so fucking fruity, I swear to God. You cannot convince me otherwise. There we go. Right. Briefly, Watson, I am in the midst of a very remarkable inquiry, and I have hoped to find a clue in the incoherent rambling of these sorts as I have done before now. Had I been recognized in that den, my life would not have been worth an hour's purchase, for I have used it before now for my own purposes, and the rascally Lascar who runs it has sworn to have vengeance upon me. There is a trapdoor at the back of that building, near the corner of Paul's Wharf, which could tell some strange tales of what has passed through it upon the moonless nights. What? You do not mean bodies? Aye, bodies, Watson. We should be rich men if we had £1,000 for every poor devil who has been done into death in that den. It is the vilest murder trap on the whole riverside, and I fear that Neville St. Clair has entered it never to leave it more. But our trap should be here. He put his 2 forefingers between his teeth and whistled shrilly, a signal which was answered by a similar whistle from the distance, followed shortly by the rattle of wheels and the clink of horses' hoofs. Now, Watson, said Holmes, as a tall dog-cart dashed through the gloom, throwing out 2 golden tunnels of yellow light from its side lanterns. You'll come with me, won't you? If I can be of use? Oh, a trusty comrade is always of use, and a chronicler. Oh my god, how did I accidentally pin something? What the hell? What? To everybody who is new in chat and from the Raiders, I'm basically not allowed to mod my own streams because that kind of stuff happens. I don't know how I accidentally pinned something. I once accidentally banned someone. Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, I accidentally banned Johnny during like my 3rd ever stream or something and couldn't figure out how to unban him. My mods had to step in to try and sort it out because I just couldn't figure it out at all. I still don't know how to unban someone, I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know how to ban someone necessarily, actually. So, Scuff Queen. But hey, at least my stream looks pretty. I can make things look pretty. That's what I'm good at. Alright. Oh, a trusty comrade is always of use, and a chronicler still more so. My room at the Cedars is a double-bedded one. The Cedars? Yes, that is Mr. St. Clair's house. I am staying there while I conduct the inquiry. Where is it then? Near Lee, in Kent. We have a 7-mile drive before us. But I am all in the dark. Of course you are. You'll know. All about it presently. Jump up here. All right, John, we shall not need you. Here's half a crown. Look out for me tomorrow about 11. Give her head. So long, then. He flicked the horse with the whip, and we dashed away to the endless succession of sombre and deserted streets, which widened gradually until we were flying across broad balustraded bridge, with the murky river flowing sluggishly beneath us. Beyond lay another dull wilderness of brick and mortar, its silence broken only by the heavy, regular footfall of the policeman or the songs and shouts of some belated party of revellers. A dull walk, a dull rack was drifting slowly across the sky, and a star or two twinkled dimly here and there through the rifts of the clouds. Holmes drove in silence, with his head sunk upon his breast, and the air of a man who is lost in thought, while I sat beside him, curious to learn what this new quest might be, which seemed to tax his powers so sorely, and yet afraid to break upon the current of his thoughts. We had driven several miles, and were beginning to get to the fringe of the belt of suburban villas, when he shook himself, shrugged his shoulders, and lit up his pipe with the air of a man who had satisfied himself that he is acting for the best. You have a grand gift of silence, Watson, said he. It makes you quite invaluable as a companion. Upon my word, it is a great thing for me to have someone to talk to, for my own thoughts are not over pleasant. I was wondering what I should say to this little dear woman tonight when she meets me at the door. You forget that I know nothing about it. I shall have I shall just have time to tell you the facts of the case before we get to Lee. It seems absurdly simple, and yet somehow I can get nothing to go upon. There's plenty of thread, no doubt, but I can't get the end of it onto my hand. Now, I'll state the case clearly and concisely to you, Watson, and maybe you can see its spark where it is all dark to me. Proceed, then. Some years ago, to be definite in May 1884, there came to Lee a gentleman, Neville St. Clair by name, who appeared to have plenty of money. He took a large villa, laid out the grounds very nicely, and lived generally in good style. By degrees he made friends in the neighbourhood, and by 1887 he married the daughter of a local brewer, by whom he now has two children. He had no occupation, but was interested in several companies and went into town as a rule in the morning, returning by the 5:14 from Cannon Street every night. Mr. St. Clair is now 37 years of age, is a man of temperate habits, a good husband, and a very affectionate father, and a man who is popular with all who know him. I may add that his whole debts at the present moment, as far as we have been able to ascertain, amount to £88, while he has £220 standing to his credit at the Capital and Counties Bank. There is no reason, therefore, to think that money troubles have been weighing on his mind. Last Monday, Mr. Neville St. Clair went into town rather earlier than usual, remarking before he started that he had two important commissions to perform, and that he would bring his little boy home a box of bricks. A box of bricks? Like, it's probably like something to play with, but I'm just imagining a box full of like fucking concrete bricks given to a kid. Yeah, with the right kind of person could enjoy a gift like that, to be fair. That's fun. Yeah, I think there is fun that could be had with just getting some concrete bricks. Hmm. Imagination goes a long way. Uh, okay. Now, by the merest chance, his wife received a telegram upon the same Monday, very shortly after his departure, to the effect that a small parcel of considerable value which she had been expecting was waiting for her at the offices of the Aberdeen Shipping Company. Now, if you are well up in your London, you will know that the office of the company is in Fresno Street, which branches out of Upper Swandam Lane, where you found me tonight. Mrs. St. Clair had her lunch, started for the city, did some shopping, proceeded to the company's office, got her packet, and found herself at exactly 4:35 walking through Swandam Lane on her way back to the station. Have you followed me so far? It is very clear. If you remember, Monday was an exceedingly hot day, and Mrs. St. Clair walked slowly, glancing about in the hope of seeing a cab, as she did not like the neighborhood in which she found herself. While she was walking in this way down Swandam Lane, she suddenly heard an ejaculation or cry, and was struck cold to see her husband looking down at her, as it seemed to her, beckoning to her from a second floor window. The window was open, and she distinctly saw his face, which she describes as being terribly agitated. He waved his hands frantically to her, then vanished from the window so suddenly that it seemed to her that he had been plucked back by some irresistible force from behind. One singular point which struck her quite feminine eye was that although he wore some dark coat, such as had started it to town in, he had on neither collar nor necktie. Convinced that something was amiss with him, she rushed down the steps, for the house was none other than the opium den in which you found me tonight, and running through the front room, she attempted to ascend the stairs which led to the first floor. At the foot of the stairs, however, she met this Lascar scoundrel of whom I have spoken, who thrust her back, aided by a Dane, who acts as an assistant there, pushed her out into the street. Filled with the most maddening doubts and fears, she rushed down the lane, and, by rare good fortune, met in Fresno Street a number of constables with an inspector, all on their way to their beat. The inspector and two men accompanied her back, and in spite of the continued resistance of the proprietor, they made their way to the room in which Mr. St. Clair had been last seen. There was no sign of him there. In fact, the whole of that floor, there was no one to be found save a crippled wretch of hideous aspect who, it seemed, made his home there. Both he and the Lascar stoutly swore that no one else had been in the front room during that afternoon. So determined was their denial that the inspector was staggered, and had almost come to believe that Mrs. St. Clair had been deluded when, with a cry, she sprang at a small deal box which lay upon a table and tore the lid from it. Out there fell the cascade of children's bricks. It was the toy which he had promised to bring home. Wow. I might experiment next time I do an ASMR stream with some like triggers and stuff. I've been considering it. I'm thinking about it. Alright. Um, this discovery and the evident confusion which the cripple showed made the inspector realize the matter was serious. The rooms were carefully examined, and results all pointed towards an abominable crime. The front room was plainly furnished as a sitting room and led into a small bedroom, which looked upon the back of one of the wharves. Between the wharf and the bedroom window was a narrow strip, which is dry at low tide but covered at high tide with at least 4.5 feet of water. The bedroom window was a broad one and open from below. On examination, traces of blood were to be seen upon the windowsill, and several scattered drops were visible upon the wooden floor of the bedroom. Thrust away behind the curtain in the front room were all the clothes of Mr. Neville St. Clair, with the exception of his coat. His boots, his socks, his hat, and his watch all were there. There was no sign of violence upon any of these garments, and there were no other traces of Mr. Neville St. Clair. Out of the window he must have apparently gone, for no other exit could be discovered, and the ominous bloodstains upon the sill gave little promise that he could save himself by swimming, for the tide was at its very highest at the moment of the tragedy. Ooh, sounds like some successful fishing happening. Ah, thank you for the follow, Krusty World. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Welcome to the club. Da, 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 da. Right. There we go. Sorry. I got distracted by a Discord notification because I am very, very easily distracted, unfortunately. Alright. There we go. And now as to the villains who seemed to be immediately implicated in the matter. The Lascar was known to be a man of the vilest antecedents, but as, by Mrs. St. Clair's story, he was known to have been at the foot of the stair within very few seconds of her husband's appearance at the window, he could hardly have been more than an accessory to the crime. His defence was one of absolute ignorance, and he protested that he had no knowledge as to the doings of Hugh Boone, his lodger, and that he could not account in any way of the presence of the missing gentleman's clothes. So much for the Lascar manager. Now for the sinister cripple who lives upon the second floor of the opium den, and who is clearly the last human being whose eyes rested upon Neville St. Clair. His name is Hugh Boone, and his hideous face is one which is familiar to every man who goes much to the city. He is a professional beggar, though in order to avoid the police regulations, he pretends to small trade in wax vestas. Some little distance down Threadneedle Street, upon the left-hand side, there is, as you may have remarked, a small angle in the wall. Here it is that this creature takes his daily seat, cross-legged with his tiny stock of matches on his lap, and as he is a piteous spectacle in a small rain of charity descends onto the greasy leather cap which lies upon the pavement behind him. Oh my god. The pavement beside him. There we go. I cannot read for shit. And that's fine. I have watched the fellow more than once before ever I thought of making his professional acquaintance, and I have been surprised of the harvest which he has reaped in a short time. His appearance, as you see, you can't thank you. I can do it, I swear. I read too quick in my head for my mouth to keep up most of the time, so it's just like, oh, thank you for the hydrate. Mm. Oh, that's good water. Right. His appearance, you see, is so remarkable that no one can pass him without observing him. A shock of orange hair, a pale face disfigured by a horrible scar, which, by its contraction, has turned up the outer edge of his upper lip, a bulldog chin, a pair of very penetrating dark eyes, which present a singular contrast to the colour of his hair, all mark him out from amid the common crowd of mendicants, and so too does his wit. Give me 2 seconds, I will be back. I return. Right. Um, ooh, that's a nice catch. Mm. Gotta go with your readings. Nice lover accent. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. I've been doing readings at very random times, but you're always welcome to pop by and listen. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Where did I leave off? Okay. All mark him out from amid the common crowd of mendicants, and so, too, does his wit, for he is ever ready with a reply to any piece of chaff which may be thrown at him by passers-by. This is the man whom we now learn to have been the lodger at the opium den, and to have been the last man to see the gentleman whom we are in quest. But a cripple, said I. What could he have done single-handed against a man in the prime of life? He is a cripple in the sense that he walks with a limp, but in other aspects he appears to be a powerful and well-nurtured man. Surely your medical expertise would tell you, Watson, that weakness in one limb is often compensated for by exceptional strength in the others. Pray continue your narrative. Mrs. St. Clair had fainted at the sight of the blood. Upon the window, and she was escorted home in a cab by the police, as her presence could be of no help to them in their investigations. Inspector Barton, whom had charge of the case, made a very careful examination of the premises, but without finding anything which threw any light upon the matter. One mistake had been made in not arresting Boone instantly, as he was allowed some few minutes during which he may have communicated with his friend the Lascar, but this fault was soon remedied, and he was seized and searched without anything being found which could incriminate him. There were, it is true, some bloodstains upon his right sleeve, uh, but he pointed to his ring finger, which had been cut near the nail, and explained that the bleeding came from there, adding that he had been to the window not long before, and that the stains which had been observed there came doubtless from him. From the same source, yeah. Hi. Hi, oh Spoonie. Hi, welcome in. How you doing today? Reading some Sherlock Holmes short stories and having a cozy old time. There we go. So sad. Alright, there we go. Dum 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 dum. He denied strenuously having ever seen Mr. Neville St. Clair and swore that the presence of the clothes in his room was as much mystery to him as the police. As to Mrs. St. Clair's assertion that she has actually seen her husband at the window, he declared she must have been either mad or dreaming. He was removed, loudly protesting, to the police station, while the inspector remained upon the premises in the hope that the ebbing tide might afford some fresh clue. And it did, though they hardly found upon the mud bank what they had feared to find. It was Neville St. Clair's coat, and not Neville St. Clair, which lay uncovered as the tide receded. And what do you think they found in the pockets? I cannot imagine. No, I don't think you would guess. Every pocket stuffed with pennies and halfpennies. 421 pennies and 270 halfpennies. It was no wonder that it had not been swept away by the tide, but a human body is a different matter. There is a fierce eddy between the wharf and the house. It seems likely enough that the weighted coat had remained when the stripped body had been sucked away into the river. But I understand that all other clothes were found in the room. Would the body be dressed in the coat alone? No, sir, but the facts might be met spaciously enough. Suppose that this man Boone had thrust Neville St. Clair out the window. There is no human eye which could have seen the deed. What would he do then? He would, of course, instantly strike him that he must get rid of the telltale garments. He would seize the coat, then, and be in the act of throwing it out when it would occur to him that it would swim, not sink. He has little time, for he has heard the scuffle downstairs, when the wife tried to force her way up, and perhaps he has already heard from his Lascar confederate that the police are hurrying up the street. There is not an instant to be lost. He rushes to some secret hoard where he has accumulated the fruits of his beggary, and he stuffs all the coins upon which he can lay his hands into the pockets to make sure of the coat's sinking. He throws it out, and would have done the same with the other garments had he not heard the rush of footsteps below, and only just had time to close the window when the police appeared. Oh, a rare fish, a rainbow fish. Hell yeah. What the hell? That's cool as fuck. To understand. Uh-huh. 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 Aye. It certainly sounds feasible. Well, we will take it as a working hypothesis for want of a better. Boone, as I have told you, was arrested and taken to the station, but it could not be shown that there had before been anything against him. He had for years been known as a professional beggar, but his life appeared to have been a very quiet and innocent one. There the matter stands at present, and the questions which have to be solved, what Neville St. Clair was doing in the opium den, what happened to him there, where he is now, and what Hugh Boone had to do with his disappearance, are all as far from solution as ever. I confess I cannot recall any case within my experience which looked at first glance so simple, and yet which presented such difficulties. While Sherlock Holmes had been detailing this singular series of events, we had been whirling through the outskirts of the great town until the last straggling houses had been left behind, and we rattled along with a country hedge upon either side of us. Just as he finished, however, we drove through two scattered villages, where a few lights still glimmered in the windows. "We are on the outskirts of Lee," said my companion. "We have touched on 3 English counties in our short drive, starting in Middlesex, passing over an angle of Surrey, and ending in Kent. See that light amongst the trees? That is the Cedars. And beside that lamp sits a woman whose anxious ears have already, I have little doubt, caught the clink of our horses' feet." "But why are you not conducting the case from Baker Street?" I asked. "Because there are many inquiries which must be made out here. Mrs. St. Clair has most kindly put 2 rooms at my disposal, and you may rest assured that you will have nothing but a welcome from my friend and colleague. I hate to meet her, Watson, when I have no news of her husband. Here we are. Whoa there, war. And sometimes the language and moving my mouth just kind of fail me a little bit. We had pulled up in front of a large villa which stood within its own grounds. A stable boy had run out to the horse's head, and springing down I followed Holmes up the small winding gravel drive which led to the house. As we approached, the door flew open, and a little blonde woman stood in the opening, clad in some sort of mousseline de soie, with a touch of fluffy pink chiffon at her neck and wrists. She stood with her figure outlined in the flood of light, one hand upon the door, one half raised in her eagerness, her body slightly bent, her head and face protruded, with eager eyes and parted lips a standing position. "Well?" she cried. "Well?" And then, seeing that there were 2 of us, she gave a grave cry of hope which sank into a groan as she saw that my companion shook his head and shrugged his shoulders. "No good news. None. No bad? No. Thank God for that. But come in. You must be weary, for you have had a long day. This is my friend Dr. Watson. He has been of most vital use to me in several of my cases, and a lucky chance has made it possible for me to bring him out and associate him with this investigation." "I am delighted to see you," said she, pressing my hand warmly. "You will, I am sure, forgive anything that may be wanting in our arrangements, when you consider the blow which has come so suddenly upon us." "My dear madame," said "I am an old campaigner, and if I were not, I can very well see that no apology is needed. If I can be of any assistance, either to you or to my friend here, I shall indeed be happy." "Now, Mr. Sherlock Holmes," said the lady as we entered the well-lit dining room, upon the table of which a cold supper had been laid out, "I should very much like to ask you 1 or 2 plain questions, to which I beg that you will give me a plain answer." "Certainly, madame. Do not trouble about my feelings. I am not hysterical, nor given to fainting. I simply wish to hear your real opinion." "Upon what point, in your heart of hearts, do you think that Neville is alive?" Sherlock Holmes seemed to be embarrassed by the question. "Frankly, now," she repeated, standing upon the rug and looking keenly down at him as he leaned back in his basket chair. "Frankly, then, madame, I do not." "You think that he is dead?" "I do." "Murdered?" "I don't say that. Perhaps." "And on what day did he meet his death?" On Monday." "Then perhaps, Mr. Holmes, you will be good enough to explain how it is that I have received a letter from him today." "Huh? What the fuck? Now how's that work? If he's dead. I mean, presumably he's not actually dead, but like, oh, I might be running out of water soon." Doo. There we go. Um, Sherlock Holmes sprang out of his chair as if he had been galvanized. What? He roared. Yes, today she stood smiling, holding up a little slip of paper in the air. May I see it? Certainly. He snatched it from her in eagerness, and smoothing it out upon the table, he drew over a lamp and examined it intently. I had left my chair and was gazing at it over his shoulder. The envelope was a very coarse one and was stamped with a Gravesend postmark and with the date of the very day, or rather of the day before, for it was considerably after midnight. Coarse writing, murmured Holmes. Surely this is not your husband's writing, madame. No, but the enclosure is. I perceive also that whoever addressed this envelope had to go and inquire as to the address. How can you tell that? The name, you see, is in perfectly black ink, which has dried itself. The rest of the rest is of a greyish colour, which shows that blotting paper has been used. If it had been written straight off and then blotted, none would be of a deep black shade. This man has written the name, and there has then been a pause before he wrote the address, which can only mean that he was not familiar with it. It is, of course, a trifle, but there is nothing so important as trifles. Let us now see the letter. Ha! There has been an enclosure here. Yes, there was a ring, his signet ring. And you are sure that this is your husband's hand? One of his hands? One. His hand when he wrote hurriedly. It is very unlike his usual writing, and yet I know it very well. Dearest, do not be frightened. All will come well. There is a huge error which it may take some time to rectify. Wait in patience. Neville. Written in pencil upon the fly leaf of a book, octavo size, no watermark. Posted today in Gravesend by a man with a dirty thumb. Ha! And the flap has been gummed, if I am not very much in error, by a person who had been chewing tobacco. And you have no doubt that it is your husband's hand, madame? None. Neville wrote those words. And they were posted today at Gravesend. Well, Mrs. St. Clair's, the clouds lighten, though I should not venture to say that the danger is over. But he must be alive, Mr. Holmes. Unless this is a clever forgery to put us on the wrong scent. The ring, after all, proves nothing. It may have been taken from him. No, no, it is his very own writing. Very well, it may, however, have been written on Monday and only posted today. That is possible. If so, much may have happened between. Oh, you must not discourage me, Mr. Holmes. I know that all is well with him. There is so keen a sympathy between us, I should know if any evil came upon him. On the very day that I saw him last, he cut himself in the bedroom, and yet I in the dining room rushed upstairs instantly with the utmost certainty that something had happened. Do you think that I would respond to such a trifle and yet be ignorant of his death? I have seen too much to not know what the impression of a woman may be more valuable than the conclusion of an analytical reasoner, and in this letter you certainly have a very strong piece of evidence to corroborate your view. But if your husband is alive and able to write letters, why should he remain away from you? I cannot imagine. It is unthinkable. And on Monday he made no remarks before leaving you? No. And you were surprised to see him in Swandam Lane? Very much so. Was the window open? Yes. Then he might have called to you. He might. He only, as I understand, gave an inarticulate cry. Yes. A call for help, you thought. Yes, he waved his hand. But it might have been a cry of surprise. Astonishment at the unexpected sight of you might cause him to throw up his hands. It is possible. And you thought he was pulled back. He disappeared so suddenly. He might have leaped back. You did not see anyone else in the room? No, but this horrible man confessed to having been there, and the Lascar was at the foot of the stairs. Quite so. Your husband, as far as you could see, had his ordinary clothes on, but without his collar or tie. I distinctly saw his bare throat. Had he ever spoken of Swandam Lane? Never. Had he ever showed any signs of having taken opium? Never. Thank you, Mrs. St. Clair. Those are the principal points about which I wish to be absolutely clear. We shall now have a little supper and then retire, for we may have a very busy day tomorrow. I'm surprised at my own ability to be reading and thinking about something completely fucking different. Because this entire time that I was reading that, like, I processed it to an extent. At the same time, I was thinking, like, I can do ASMR streams like most days of the week early, and then I can have my gaming streams in the evening. And that could be fun. That does take up a lot of my day, though. I do that all the time. Oh, thank you for the follow. I am not gonna. Bell? I hope it's Bell. Thanks for the follow, though. I appreciate it. I realize I need to go back 3 pages and read. At least when I'm reading for stream, I don't have to worry about actually processing it. But yeah, I was just like humming to myself because I'm trying to. I mean, if y'all regulars will be able to see that my schedule for streams has been all over the place. It's going to be. It will normalize after the 20th, roughly. There's just a lot happening um, in life circumstances, but I'm trying to figure out like a kind of new schedule for myself at the moment. So we'll see like how this is going. Your schedule's pretty. It is pretty crazy. Yeah, but I quite like the idea of doing what is for me early morning ASMR streams, and then having my gaming streams in the evening. It's a weirdly nice way to start off the day. I'm not gonna lie. But we'll see. I'm running a week or two of experiments to see what kind of time works best for me and my schedule. And we'll see what happens after that and what schedule we settle into. And it should normalize at some point. Right. A large and comfortable double-bedded room had been placed at our disposal, and I was quickly between the sheets, for I was weary after my night of adventure. Sherlock Holmes was a man, however. Period. Oh, thank you for cheers. Thank you for the cheers. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ah, mwah. I lost my spot. As fucking usual. Alright. Yes. Oh, I was laughing at my. Sherlock Holmes was a man, however. It's silly. Let me be silly. Hey. Sherlock Holmes was a man, however, who, when he had an unsolved problem upon his mind, would go for days and even for a week without rest, turning it over, rearranging his facts, looking at it from every point of view until he had either fathomed it or convinced himself that his data were insufficient. Hola, buenas noches. Yes. Hi. I know that means hi. Hi, hi, hi. How you doing today? Hope your day is going well. Or night. It is like the middle of the day for me, so I don't know what kind of time zones anyone else is in. I know America is probably like nighttime-ish, middle of the night. But it was soon evident to me that he was now preparing for an all-night sitting. Stream started at 7 a.m. No! I'm so sorry, Hiro, but also, why are you awake at 7 a.m.? What are you doing at 7 a.m., huh? So thanks for the follow, KNG Mercy. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sharing a weird edge. But yes, please do keep chat in English because I may know a few languages, but not enough, and not any of the common ones. Um, keep everyone safe and comfy. Oh my god, this is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. But hi. Pure luck, by the way. That's I was pure luck. That's insane. I am running on like 3 hours of sleep. I think I went to bed at like 6, 7 a.m. Oh god, I said it again. At least Boo was not here. Um, what's it called? Yeah, I tried to get up early for stream because it works out quite nicely for me, but your model is very beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's not even my usual outfit. I like my frills and my ruffles. But we're being big oversized shirt cozy vibes tonight. Uh da 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 da. There we go. Sorry. Unfortunately, I am very easily distracted. To the surprise of probably nobody. And there's a lot of very unmedicated ADHD up in here. Um right. Where the fuck was I? There we go. It was soon evident to me that he was now preparing for an all night sitting. He took off his coat and waistcoat, put on a large blue dressing gown, and then wandered about the room collecting pillows from his bed and cushions from the sofa and armchairs. With these he constructed a sort of eastern divan, upon which he perched himself cross-legged, with an ounce of shag tobacco and a box of matches laid out before him. In the dim light of the lamp I saw him sitting there, an old briar pipe between his lips, his eyes fixed vacantly upon the corner of the ceiling. The blue smoke curling up from him, silent, motionless, with the light shining upon his strong set aquiline features. So he sat as I dropped off to sleep, and so he sat when the sudden ejaculation caused me to wake up, and I found the summer sun shining into the apartment. The pipe was still between his lips, the smoke still curled upwards, and the room was full of dense tobacco haze, but nothing remained of the heap of shag which I had seen upon the previous night. "Awake, Watson?" he asked. "Yes." "Game for a morning drive?" "Certainly." "Then dress. No one is stirring yet, but I know where the stable boy sleeps, and we shall soon have the trap out." He chuckled to himself as he spoke. His eyes twinkled, and he seemed a different man to the somber thinker of the previous night. I desperately need to run to the loo for a second, so we're gonna take a little bit of a break. And I'm gonna go and be back in just a moment. Hee. It just tuned back in as I saw Sailor you say, "Give me something good." And the picture of the slipper on screen. Oh my god. I think for real it feels like the fishing minigame has been very rigged today. the game the game is getting its payback from for me. For me being bullied. Oh my gosh. Ah. Oh, I don't have that set up. Wait, wait. Uh, no, it's fine. I was gonna be like, I'll type something out, but my keyboard is very loud. It's not actually that loud, but it can be a bit loud. I don't have a favorite command set up. Also, Americans. No, I literally had the same reaction in Sailor's chat last night when I typed in favorite, and I was like, wait, why isn't this working? The correct spelling. It was last night. It's the next morning for me. I slept for like 3 hours, but it's still sleep. ASMR noise. Oh my god. Okay. I mean, you did stream for like nearly 12 hours. I agree with you. How are you not passed out? How did you have the endurance for that long of a stream? Like, oh my god. My throat would just fucking hurt talking that much. Getting in bed now? Good, good. I can read you to sleep. Ah, water time. Hmm. Hmm. There we go. As I dressed, I glanced at my watch. It was no wonder that no one was stirring. It was 25 minutes past 4. I had hardly finished when Holmes returned with the news that the boy was putting in the horse. "I want to test a little theory of mine," said he, pulling on his boots. "I think, Watson, that you are now standing in the presence of one of the most absolute fools in Europe. I deserve to be kicked from here to Charing Cross, but I think I have a key of the affair now." "And where is it?" I asked, smiling. "In the bathroom," he answered. "Oh, yes, I am not joking," he continued, seeing my look of incredulity. "I have just been there, and I have taken it out, and I have got it in this Gladstone bag. Come on, my boy, and we shall see whether it will not fit the lock." Mm, Oh, for a second I was like, oh, they mean key as in metaphorically, and then they started talking about it as a physical key, and I got so confused. But I do think they still mean it metaphorically. Okay. We made our way downstairs as quietly as possible and out into the bright morning sunshine. In the road stood our horse and trap, with a half-clad stable boy waiting at the head. We both sprang in, and away we dashed down the London road. A few country carts were stirring, bearing in vegetables to the metropolis, but the lines of villas on either side were as silent and lifeless as some city in a dream. "It has been at some point a singular case," said Holmes, flicking the horse into a gallop. "I confess that I have been as blind as a mole, but it is better to learn wisdom late than to never learn it at all." In town, the earliest risers were just beginning to look sleepily from their windows as we drove through the streets of the Surrey side. Passing down the Waterloo Bridge Road, we crossed over the river, and dashing up Wellington Street, wheeled sharply into the right and found ourselves in Bow Street. Sherlock Holmes was well known to the force, and the two constables at the door saluted him. One of them held the horse's head while the other led us in. "Who is on duty?" asked Sherlock Holmes. Inspector Inspector Bradstreet, sir. Ah, Bradstreet, how are you? A tall, stout official had come down the stone-flagged passage in a peaked cap and a frog jacket. "I wish to have a quiet word with you, Bradstreet." "Certainly, Mr. Holmes. Step into my room here." It was a small office-like room with a huge ledger upon the table and a telephone projecting from the wall. The inspector sat down at his desk. "What can I do for you, Mr. Holmes?" "I called about the beggarman Boone, the one who was charged with being concerned in the disappearance of Mr. Neville St. Clair, of Lee." "Yes, he was brought up and remanded for further inquiries." "So I heard. You have him here?" "In the cells." "Is he quiet?" "Oh, he gives no trouble, but he's a dirty scoundrel." "Dirty?" "Yes, it is all we can do to make him wash his hands, and his face is as black as a tinker's. Well, when once this case has been settled, he will have a regular prison bath, and I think if you saw him you would agree with me that he needed it." "I should like to see him very much." "Would you? That is easily done. Come this way, you can leave your bag." "No, I think that I'll take it." "Oh, very good. Come this way, if you please." He led us down a passage, opened a bar door, passed down a winding stair, and brought us to the whitewashed corridor with a line of doors on each side. "The third on the right is his," said the inspector. "Here it is." He quietly shut back a panel in the upper part of the door and glanced through. "He is asleep," said he. "You can see him very well." We both put our eyes to the grating. The prisoner lay with his face towards us in a very deep sleep, breathing slowly and heavily. He was a middle-sized man, coarsely clad as became his calling, with a coloured shirt protruding through the rent in his tattered coat. He was, as the inspector had said, extremely dirty, but the grime which covered his face could not conceal his repulsive ugliness. "Hi, Warcrafter. Glad to see you sticking around." A broad wheal from an old scar ran across it from eye to chin, and by its contraction had turned up one side of the upper lip, so that three teeth were exposed in a perpetual snarl. A shock of very bright red hair grew low over his eyes and forehead. "He's a beauty, isn't he?" said the inspector. "He certainly needs a wash," remarked Holmes. "I had an idea that he might, and I took the liberty of bringing the tools with me." He opened the Gladstone bag as he spoke and took out, to my astonishment, a very large bath sponge. "You're a funny one," chuckled the inspector. "Now, if you will have the great goodness to open that door very quietly, we will soon make him cut a much more respectable figure." "Well, I don't know why not," said the inspector. "He does look a credit to Bow Street cells, does he?" He slipped his key into the lock, and we all very quietly entered the cell. The sleeper half turned and then settled down once more into deep slumber. Sorry about that. Holmes stooped to the water jug, moistened his sponge, and then rubbed it twice vigorously across and down the prisoner's face. "Let me introduce you," he shouted, "to Mr. Neville St. Clair of Lee in the county of Kent." "Huh?" Wait, why was I not expecting that? What the fuck? No, but his face being scarred and everything. What? This doesn't make any sense. Never in my life have I seen such a sight. The man's face peeled off under the sponge like a bark from tree. Gone was the coarse brown tint. Gone too was the horrid scar which had seamed it across, and the twisted lip which had given the repulsive sneer to the face. A twitch brought away the tangled red hair, and there, sitting up in his bed, was a pale, sad-faced, refined-looking man. Black-haired and smooth-skinned, rubbing his eyes and looking about him with sleepy bewilderment. Then, suddenly realizing the exposure, he broke into a scream, and threw himself down with his face into the pillow. Great heavens, cried the inspector. It is indeed the missing man. I know him from the photograph. The prisoner returned with the reckless air of a man who abandons himself to his destiny. Be it so, said he. And pray, what am I charged with? With making away with Mr. Neville Saint. Oh, come, you can't be charged with that unless they make a case of attempted suicide of it, said the inspector with a grin. Well, I have been 27 years in the force, but this really takes the cake. So, wait, this man has been pretending to be a beggar for like fucking forever? Is that what happened? Huh? If I am Mr. Neville St. Clair, then it is obvious that no crime has been committed, and that therefore I am illegally detained. No crime, but a very great error has been committed, said Holmes. You would have done better to have trusted your wife. It was not the wife, it was the children, groaned the prisoner. God help me, I would not have them ashamed of their father. My God, what an exposure! What can I do? Sherlock Holmes sat beside him on the couch and patted him kindly on the shoulder. If you leave it to a court of law to clear the matter up, said he, of course you can hardly avoid publicity. On the other hand, if you convince the police authorities that there is no possible case against you, I do not know that there is any reason that the details should find their way into the papers. Inspector Bradstreet would, I am sure, make notes upon anything which you might tell us and submit it to the proper authorities. The case would then never go to court at all. God bless you, cried the prisoner passionately. I would have endured imprisonment, aye, even execution, rather than have left my miserable secret as a family blot to my children. You are the first who have ever heard my story. My father was a schoolmaster in Chesterfield, where I received an excellent education. I travelled in my youth, took to the stage, and finally became a reporter in an evening paper in London. One day my editor wished to have a series of articles upon begging in the metropolis, and I volunteered to supply them. There was a point from which all my adventures started. It was only by trying begging as an amateur that I could get the facts upon which to base my articles. When an actor, I had, of course, learned the secrets of makeup, and had been famous in the green room for my skill. I took advantage now of my attainments. I painted my face, and to make myself as pitiable as possible, I made a good scar, and fixed one side of my lip in a twist by the aid of a small slip of flesh-colored plaster. Then, with the red head of hair and an appropriate dress, I took my station in the business part of the city, ostensibly as a match seller, but really as a beggar. For 7 hours I plied my trade, and when I returned home in the evening, I found to my surprise that I had received no less than 26. There's a bunch of numbers on the page that I can't make sense of. I wrote my articles and thought little more of the matter until, some time later, I backed a bill for a friend and had a writ served upon me for £25. I was at my wits' end where to get the money, but a sudden idea came to me. I begged a fortnight's grace from the creditor, asked for a holiday from my employers, and spent the time in begging in the city under my disguise. In 10 days I had the money and had paid the debt. Well, you can imagine how hard it was to settle down to arduous work at £2 a week when I knew that I could earn as much in a day by smearing my face with little paint, laying my crap on the ground, and sitting still. It was a long fight between my pride and the money, but the dollars won at last, and I threw up reporting and sat day after day in the corner which I had first chosen, inspiring pity by my ghastly face and filling my pockets with coppers. Only one man knew my secret. He was the keeper of a low den in which I used to lodge in Swandam Lane, where I could every morning emerge as a squalid beggar, and in the evenings transform myself into a well-dressed man about town. This fellow, a Lascar, was well paid by me for his rooms, so that I knew my secret was safe in his possession. Well, very well, I found that I was saving considerable sums of money. I do not mean that any beggar in the streets of London could earn £700 a year, which is less than my average takings, but I had exceptional advantages to my power of making up, and also in the facility of repartee, which improved by practice and made me quite a recognized character in the city. All day a stream of pennies, varied by silver, poured in upon me, and it was a very bad day in which I failed to take £2. As I grew richer, I grew more ambitious. took a house in the country, and eventually married, without anyone having suspicion as to my real occupation. My dear wife knew that I had business in the city. Um, she little knew what. Last Monday, I had finished for the day and was dressing in my room above the opium den when I looked out of my window and saw, to my horror and astonishment, that my wife was standing in the street with her eyes fixed full upon me. I gave a cry of surprise, threw up my arms to cover my face, and rushing to my confidant, the Lascar, entreated him to prevent anyone from coming up to me. I heard her voice downstairs, but I knew that she could not ascend. Swiftly I threw off my clothes, pulled on those of a beggar, and put on my pigments and wig. Even in a wife's eyes could not pierce so complete a disguise. But then it occurred to me that there might be a search in the room, and that the clothes might betray me. I threw open the window, reopening by my violence a small cut which I had inflicted upon myself in the bedroom that morning. Then I seized my coat, which was weighted by the coppers which I had transferred to it from the leather bag in which I carried my takings. I hurled it out of the window, and it disappeared into the Thames. The other clothes would have followed, but at that moment there was a rush of constables up the stair, and a few moments after I found, rather, I confess to my relief, that instead of being identified as Mr. Neville St. Clair, I was arrested as his murderer. I do not know that there is anything else for me to explain. I was determined to preserve my disguise as long as possible, and hence my preference for a dirty face. Knowing that my wife would be terribly anxious, I slipped off my ring and confided it to the Lascar at a moment when no constable was watching me, together with hurried scrawl telling her that she had no cause to fear. That note only reached her yesterday, said Holmes. Good God, what a week she might have spent. The police have watched this Lascar, said Inspector Bradstreet, and I can quite understand that he might find it difficult to post a letter unobserved. Perhaps he handed it to some sailor customer of his who forgot all about it for some days. That was it, said Holmes, nodding approvingly. I have no doubt about it. But you ever been prosecuted for begging? Many times, but what was a fine to me? It must stop here, however, said Bradstreet. If the police are to hush this thing up, there must be no more of you, Boone. I have sworn it by the most solemn oaths which a man can take. In that case, I think that it is possible no further steps may be taken. But if you are found again, then all must come out. I am sure, Mr. Holmes, that we are very much indebted to you for having cleared the matter up. I wish I knew how to reach your results. I reached this one, said my friend, by sitting upon 5 pillows and consuming an ounce of shag. I think, Watson, that if we drive to Baker Street, we shall just be in time for breakfast. What a clean ending to that one, huh? Wow, okay. That is, oh my god, that is 3 hours? We've been going for 3 hours. I did not realize at all that it had been that long. Wow, that is insane. Alright, so let me end stream there for today because I definitely have other stuff I should be doing other than just streaming forever. So thanks for stopping by. Thank you everybody for popping in and all the love that you have shown me. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope I'll see you guys maybe again tomorrow. Probably at the same time. I'm very sorry, Hiro. um, I'm gonna try and wake up. So we'll see how well that goes. Alright. Let's us call it that. I will see you guys tomorrow. Whoop, whoop. Bye. Wait, is it that one? No. What's my freaking... Ah, there we go. Bye.